Welcome to the Busy Working Show. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. What have you been up to lately?
So it's interesting. I was hoping to kind of take it a little easy this summer, and a couple of consulting opportunities, materialized. And I was trying to keep the weekly hours to kind of a minimum and get my golf in. I think I've played golf once.
No.
Got I've got clients in different businesses, advertising, apparel, and health right now, and we're all very, very busy trying to figure out, strategy and how to win more customers.
Absolutely. So you've got some clients in various areas. What do you do for these clients?
So I think I fulfill a niche. I mean, these are usually companies on the younger side. These are companies that um, don't have a chief strategy officer, or they don't have they've not really put down on a clean sheet of paper what their go-to-market strategy is, what their customer acquisition strategy is. um, if you're a young founder and you're entrepreneurial, you're going to find sales, you're going to find your niche, and you're going to work to grow business. But I think what ends up happening is you kind of hit this, I wouldn't say a speed bump, but hurdles start getting larger, right? And you've got to
Mhm.
figure out a way to carry over them. And so I really do spend a lot of time with young companies, middle market companies, helping them figure out their positioning in the marketplace, trying to figure out, when I was in school, we used to talk a lot about USP, our unique selling proposition.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of the companies I advise haven't really formulated their USP.
Yeah.
They're oftentimes in very competitive industries. So my job is to kind of help them figure out customer acquisition. What's the long-term strategy for the business? How are they going to
Mhm.
advertise? How are they going to create top of mind awareness for their business? And on the other side, I've worked in a number of businesses where I've helped the team raise money, and
Okay.
come up with strategies on governance. So I oftentimes get pulled in those directions as well. But I think the big idea is that how do we take a brand and get more customers is really the goal here.
Yeah, that's kind of the lifeblood of survival. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Before COVID in 2019, you could have a business that didn't have profits, didn't have a ton of revenue, but you could have the big idea and you could get investors to invest in that big idea. And it was
Hmm.
perfectly acceptable to burn much of that cash over a 1 to 2, maybe 3 year period. World has radically changed. You don't have the same runway anymore, so you've got to find
Hmm.
profitability much sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you find yourself to what you're doing now? What does the journey look like along the way to get you here?
It's been an interesting journey. I've worked at large companies, I've worked at small companies, I've started a number of businesses. When I sold my last business, I really did want to, I didn't really want to start a new business right away. I actually
Mhm.
wanted to work on businesses that were like early on or ongoing, and help them avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes that I made when I started mine. And so
Gotcha.
there were no shortage of like stupid errors that we made really early on, and with scar
Yes.
tissue on scar tissue for some of the harrowing experiences we had with like hiring and then downsizing, raising money, and then like launching a product that didn't truly work. And so most of my most of my clients come from a small network of friends and family that I'm working with directly with CEOs and their
Hmm.
boards in some cases. They've all opted in and said that they want to sell their business or have some sort of an event in 36 to 48 months.
Hmm.
They're all working very hard, and they're all really likable people. So the people I work with are really nice people. We get along great. We can have honest conversations about their business and what's happening. So I really did get started because I didn't want to start a business, but I wanted to help others that started a business, um, really generate sales and at the same time
Hmm.
have something that was defensible.
Yeah. So as you move throughout your career, what are your thoughts? What do you think of, or do you think of the legacy that you're building for yourself and for others?
Um, I've only recently started thinking about my legacy. I
Mhm.
never really spent a lot of time thinking about um, that. There were a couple things that were really important. Number one, whether when I had my last business or the business before that, um, I only wanted to work on stuff that I found an attraction towards, and I only wanted
Sure.
to work with people I really liked.
Mhm.
And if I can get satisfaction from doing that, that's a really good thing for me personally. What's interesting though is that the CEOs that I'm advising now and the folks that are starting these businesses, um, they all want to have some sort of positive impact. And
Mhm.
they all know that this is a means to an end, not an end within itself. So I have worked alongside people that like they have no intention of ever retiring and
Yeah.
doing anything different than they're doing now. But the folks that I'm probably most closely aligned with are people that want to do well, want to do have fun in the process. And by the way, when they're done with this particular business, they want to help others. And
Mhm.
so I do sit on a couple philanthropic boards. One of them is the Jordan Porco Foundation to Prevent Teen Suicide. And we
Okay.
know that no matter how bad our day goes in the business world, it's much worse for people that are struggling with, isolation and depression. And what I would say is
Sure.
a lot of the folks that, I'm teaming with really do know that there's a larger world out there and that, if they do have a nice exit, they can help others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that's always attracted me to certain type of business owner and individual is not necessarily, I mean, because we can obviously get some selfish fulfillment, not selfish in a bad possessive way, but we can get our own personal fulfillment out of being philanthropic, being
Right.
involved in the community. But it's what we teach others. So what are some of the like the conversations that you have with the businesses that you work with? What are they just coming into this thought process, or is this something that they're intentionally building with their business?
So they kind of fall into two camps. In some, if you bifurcate, what's happening out there, there's a group of people that are, habitual job company builders,
Mm-hmm.
and they look at this as they're trying to solve a problem in the marketplace, and while they're doing that, they're including others in this journey, and those others, might not have had exposure to this opportunity, and it's really good over time for their employees and their partners to be involved in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like if you're a CEO and you're just in it for the money, you're probably universally, I think those people fail. I
Yeah,
think because CEOs don't build companies, CEOs build teams that build companies. And
I like
if
that.
right, and if you know, if the team wins, everyone wins. So there are a number of CEOs that say, I really like money, but I really like building these teams that solve problems for, clients and the greater good. And that's a great place to be. And then there's a group of people, and it's a much smaller group of people that have already thought that they wanted to start a business, make a bunch of dough, and create a lasting legacy. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
donate to their alma mater, donate to a charity that maybe is close to the heart. Maybe they lost a family member to cancer and they want to support cancer research. I think that's a very smaller group of people. I think the larger group of people are the people that they wake up in the morning, they want to build something that's got durability, that's got real velocity, and they can lift up a whole lot of people. And they get to a point where in some cases they've been really successful, and then they try to figure out how they want to deploy some of their disposable cash.
Mm-hmm.
How do they make the world a better place? um, I don't know anyone that starts a business solely for the purpose of just trying to figure out a donation strategy, because look, most of these businesses
Yeah.
don't work. But I do get a kick out of founders that take a certain percentage of their income or the company's profit and they do something good with it. I mean, when we
Mm-hmm.
ran Media Crossing, we had a strategy where we took some of our profit and we donated it to causes that were local to our business.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been the local hospital, it could have been the local, homeless shelter, it could have been the local art art museum, especially the art museum that had local programs for inner city kids that didn't have summer camp options. to do
Yeah.
art, the local music program. And I do get a kick out of those. Look, if you own a small business and you want to do great, spend a little money and sponsor the local Little League. Put
Oh,
your name
without a
on the
doubt.
back of the jersey.
Hmm.
Give computers to the boys and girls clubs, that are near your headquarters. Give back, do a little bit. It will, in the long run, it doesn't cost as much as everybody thinks.
No, it really doesn't. An interesting tactic that a friend and client of mine will do from time to time. He does a lot of involvement, but we'll kind of partner up and we'll have a cash donation to an organization, but also then kind of an expertise donation, whether it be like somebody coming in who can really help them with additional fundraising. So obviously organizations need cash, but they also
Right.
need a lot of education and training as well, which I think most of them overlook how valuable that is. But there was one right before COVID hit. We rebuilt their site and their whole workflow and their online donations, and they actually raised more that during lockdown than they had like the previous 2 or 3 years. So just
I think that's wonderful. Look, these businesses, even the smaller ones, are filled with great, smart subject matter experts
mhm.
that if they spent, 5 hours a month providing a charity or a local, another local business in a non-competing area with some brain power, it all those are the kinds of things I get excited for. So, we had a charity that we were involved in very early on, and they just didn't know how to run social media. I don't know, we had dozens of social media experts, and we were like, why don't we just give you X amount of bandwidth with a group of people, and if you need a resource, they'll provide hands-on keyboards and they'll do some training and they'll get you guys smart. And it was an inexpensive way to provide pro bono work to a charity that could really benefit from those tools so they can increase their fundraising.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then that really gives them those tools that last a lot longer than when we'll be
100%.
engaged with them. It's fantastic. So along the way and along your journey, who have you run into that has helped shape your view on building a meaningful business and building a legacy?
So I had a handful of really great mentors. I was really lucky. Some people go their whole life without having a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, from my point of view, really sad. I've had two or three really great people in my life. I had a friend who um, passed away about 6 or 8 months ago. He was a really close friend, and he was an investment banker here in Connecticut. And when he would go to see these young companies looking for money, he would be first thing he would say, "So, what's your customer acquisition strategy?" And then they would be like, "Well, we have these sales guys," and then it doesn't sound like you have strategy. It just sounds like you have a bunch of people. I'm not going to invest unless you talk to Michael because he knows customer acquisition strategy. So my friend Tom was incredible at recognizing an opportunity for me, making an introduction, and then like working with me to strategize on how to help this company that he was thinking of investing in. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare to meet somebody with his intellect and his generosity. And like, he was one of those guys that a high tide's going to rise all the boats. You're on the boat with me. Um,
Yeah.
I had a really good business school professor years ago who just really understood the very nature of deal making and capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was younger, he provided really incredible information and guidance. And I think a lot of my career stemmed from a lot of the conversations I had with Bob. And then look, I've always wanted to align myself with people that are a lot smarter than me. And there's a ton of people way smarter than me. So let's just start with that.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a kid, my father used to say, if you're going to play tennis, try to find somebody that's just better than you and you'll get better. And in the business world, I do try to gravitate to people that are just way freaking smarter than me. And
Amen to that.
I try to find a nugget or two that will work for me and my teams. Um, and it doesn't always work, but I think if you make it a point every week to go meet 1 to 2 new people you've not met before, you'll find someone smarter than you over the course of a few months.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's really, one of my first, actually not one of my first sales manager out of college, he told me that whenever you read a book, just look for one nugget. And read as many books as you can, because if there's one, and if you get lucky, there's two or three, then that's just going to add to your insight and your ability to do better. And so
100%.
I've, yeah, which is interesting. I never really read much at all. I had senioritis when I was in kindergarten. So, but once I got into my career and maybe a few years into it, I've been reading, yeah, as much as I can get my hands on ever since.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, if you happen to have any, air travel, reading is a great way to kill the time. And
Mhm.
I load my Kindle with a couple books that, and I make it a point to try to plow through one or two. So in the last couple months, I've read two books this summer. Um,
Mhm.
one was called Power Outage. It was the story about General Electric, and it was really an eye opener. It was really the story of, it was everything not to do in a business. I mean, it was a lot of good
Gotta
lessons,
write that down.
a lot of good lessons, a lot of good learnings. And then there was a book I just finished the other day. I think it was called Unscripted. It was the story of Sumner Murray Redstone and Viacom. And it was just a soap opera of a book, but it really did highlight, it highlighted a couple things for me in all of these books, that there is no substitute for go to market, which is what I try to advise clients on. There is no substitute to finding good revenue streams from robust products and services.
Mhm.
Um, and again, teams win, individuals do not win in the corporate setting. Look, if you don't want to work as a team player, don't, play tennis, play
Yeah,
golf, be a
exactly.
single sole producer. But anywhere where there's a team required to
Mhm.
meet the needs of a client or a business or a category versus another team, you've got to figure out a way to incentivize and motivate, these teams to provide success, to build success. And all of these books, it kind of like, whether they say it or not, or they don't, it's, you get a real flavor for that. Like, there are people that you put on your bench that you
Mhm.
entrust with your business,
Yeah,
and you let them run, and you try to figure out a
exactly.
way to harness that to create, new sales opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you were to write yourself a letter today
Oh boy.
to be opened 10 years from now, what would you write yourself?
I think it's a good question. You have me stumped. I can tell you that what I'm doing now is what I should have been doing years ago. I would
Mhm.
actually take a step back. I will tell you that if I wrote that letter to myself 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I would have been searching for what made me happy and what provided me with satisfaction. And
Mhm.
frankly, if you find satisfaction and you find um you find happiness in what you're doing, you you have a de minimis amount of stress, right? So years ago, I think I was traveling too much. I was eating really unhealthy, and and I didn't particularly like the clients I had.
Mhm.
And I was in a position where, we were trying to field every new client we could, and we were saying yes to a lot of stuff. I think, if I look forward, I would be, let's be really clear about the businesses we want to be in.
Yeah.
Let's be really clear about the things we like to do versus the things we don't like to do. And let's be really real. Let's be completely realistic about the things we're good at versus the things we're not.
Oh
And
yeah.
the things we're not good at, we need to find others to help us. And we can't fake it, right? So
Mm-mm.
if you're really terrible at reading contracts, and I'm really good at reading contracts, but if you're really terrible, find someone that can read contracts. If
Yeah.
you're really good at math, and you like finance, and you're good at accounting, that's awesome. Most entrepreneurs are not good at finance. They're not good at forecasting, and they're really
Mhm.
terrible. And I mean it. They're really terrible at accounting. Um,
Yeah.
so as you scale, look, if I was writing this letter to myself 10 years ago, I'd be really focused on um, finding the things that get me excited to do, to be motivated to help others and advise clients every day. Um, I will tell you that there are a lot of people that are unhappy in their current jobs, and they feel like they don't have the space to make a change. And I always encourage my friends, look, I've reinvented myself in 4 or 5 different careers over the last 33 years. And again, there's a lot of guys that are way smarter than me that can do this probably with less effort. But no, I think that the big idea is you have to visualize where you want to be, and you have to and you have to take out the X factor, which is how much money it will take to get there.
Mhm.
So the reason I always talk about this with my kids, and I don't mean to blather on, but there are people that have a scarcity mentality or an abundance mentality, right?
Yes.
Right. So if you have a scarcity mentality, you are less apt to make a change in your career, even if you hate every single day. If Sunday at 8 o'clock at night you have like stomach pains because Monday's going to be really horrible, you're in the wrong business, my friend.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have to have more of an abundance mentality, because I think the things I'm doing now and how I like view my role within these engagements is radically different than what I once did, where I wasn't getting the same satisfaction.
Yeah. Oh, I think that is incredibly important. The scarcity versus abundance. And teaching, of course, I have some young kids.
Yeah,
Mine are 15 and below, so 15 to 3 years old.
right.
And I'm very hyper aware of that right now. Is as my girls get into high school and they're exposed to new ideas, I try my best to guide them towards that abundance side of those ideas. Of, they're right now, so they just got their first bank accounts recently in the past few
Yeah.
months. And just having the conversations of, well, how do you earn money? Like, well, I've got one that's artistic. I said, well, just start learning how to take your art and express it, and then put it out in the world and see what happens.
Right.
And so it's really interesting that you've got they really do boil down to that. I think that you're right. You got scarcity and abundance, and which path you go down is going to be very, very either limiting or expansive.
I want my children to be cautiously abundant.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, I don't, I wouldn't provide anybody with advice where they should throw, caution to the wind and do whatever makes sense, because look, there's certain cultures that um the cultures the people there aren't savers, they're spenders, and they buy luxury goods, and
Yeah.
they're conspicuously consuming. And these are predominantly cultures where these are abundance cultures, because they believe as long as there's problems in the world, they'll make money because they're going to come up with a solution. I love that, and I was never able to take it to that extreme. Scarcity means you really do put yourself in a pod, and you really don't invest in yourself, and you
Hmm.
really don't think about making a change if things aren't working out, because you're uber cautious, and that's not a great place to be either. So to your point, I mean, I think there's probably like this homeostasis, happy medium, where you're, depending on the situation, um, you're figuring out your strategy to architect your life.
Yeah.
But I would say, look, for kids, and if you've raised grounded kids, I think the most important thing is self-confidence, right? So if you believe
Oh
in you,
yeah. Oh
if your
yeah.
daughter's artistic and she's really good at like taking photos and having an eye for, imaging, she
Hmm.
may be able to take some of that skill set on the weekends and take wedding photos and
Sure.
commercialize, right?
Absolutely.
She might work with a photographer and do the retouching. I mean, like, there's a lot. I always like to tell people, whatever you like to do, I can't think of something like, maybe water skiing. I don't know. Whatever you like to do, there's a commercial application to make money.
Yeah.
And the question is, can you, and I never was a big believer in chase your passion. You should just find what you like to do that you can commercialize.
Yeah.
And you never have to worry about making a paycheck, but you also don't worry about, the Sunday night blues, and Wednesday, everybody goes like it's hump day, and like you're counting down the next couple days to Friday before the
Oh
weekend.
yeah.
And like 5 days out of the 7 days a week, you're thinking about how not to work. And
Yeah.
so I would, to any of your viewers, I would be really clear that if you fall into that category of people that don't like every day, and you can't
Hmm.
find something positive every day, dude, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Because even the challenges in life, even the challenges that I face in my career, I still find fulfillment in trying to solve those problems.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
rewarding for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Well, Michael, this is great. I really appreciate it. How can people find you? How can people connect, and if they particularly need your expertise?
Awesome. So I'm Michael K. Kalman on LinkedIn, and I'm mkkalman at Gmail. I am probably going to get a Threads account this week because all the cool kids are doing it.
That's right. I got mine
Um,
yesterday.
I'm going to do that. I probably don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, but
Mhm.
I would love to speak to your viewers. If there's any way I can provide value, I'm really clear. I'm not one of those consultants that like you get me on the phone and then I send you a bill. I take a
Yeah,
lot of calls to talk to people to learn about their businesses before I even engage. So if there is an opportunity or somebody needs help, they should feel free to reach out to me.
that's excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much, Michael. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Paul. I hope you have a great day. I appreciate the opportunity to participate today.